large binder, but it's mostly empty. but I will say that my heart is very full. It's full with pride and respect for the veterans here from the Vietnam War, from the Korean War. It's filled with kind of enthusiasm and excitement, looking out across the audience as well at all those who came to respect and honor these veterans, at our active duty service members here today, both from the United States military, from our military band, and also from the Republic of Korea. Thank you for coming out to this event today. I appreciate that. And also, finally, to the young men and women of our color guard, who really filled me with pride because it reflects the next generation of service members, I hope, but certainly the next generation of young men and women in our country who will carry on this legacy. It's an honor to represent the United States Navy here today, and certainly to honor our veterans. Many decades have passed since those wars ended, yet it's more important than ever to reflect on the courage and commitment of the military members who answered our nation's call to service during those wars. We sent our nation's finest from the cities, from the various islands of Hawaii, thousands of young people. People like Alan Kellogg Jr., Dennis Fuji, and Patrick Sunega, and the other veterans here and the heroes who couldn't be with us today. They all answered our nation's call. They did their duty. Unfortunately, from both of these wars, our veterans often returned home without parades, without fanfare, or any recognition. They simply took off their uniforms and went back to work. And frankly, that was wrong. Our veterans deserve better. They did an incredibly hard job. They served with honor, and they came back, and they took their uniforms off, and they rebuilt our nation. Thank goodness our society has worked over the last several decades to ensure that now we appropriately recognize our veterans' sacrifice. And the Hawaii, Korean, and Vietnam War Memorial, which has stood on these grounds for 30 years, does just that. These two wars were part of a larger conflict, the Cold War, and for generations to come, I think history will look kindly on that war, where free nations across the globe banded together in a long Cold War, a war that sometimes became a hot war, fought in places like Korea and Vietnam, and yet how those like-minded nations would eventually prevail in that Cold War. And while the Cold War is now a distant memory, and our execution in that war was at times far from perfect, I'd ask you to remember two truths about that. And number one, the United States and the like-minded democratic and Republican nations that fought alongside us is the most powerful force on earth. And with that power, today comes responsibility. And it's not just a responsibility to our own citizens of Korea and the United States of America, but to all of those nations who depend on us for global peace and security. And number two, despite what you might read in the news and the media, our nation has unassailable values, and so does the Republic of Korea. Those values are recognized by educated, intelligent, and fair-minded people across the globe. We set the standard in human rights and liberties, in freedom of the press, and in individual opportunity. And we are also some of the most charitable nations in the world by a huge margin. And these values, these principles that we stand for and that we fight for are absolutely worth fighting for. And so today, as our allies throughout the Indian Ocean and Pacific Ocean look to us, they know that the United States and the Republic of Korea are forces for peace, for security, and prosperity. And today, the U.S. Pacific Fleet ships now regularly visit countries like Vietnam and the Republic of Korea. Earlier this month, our 7th Fleet flagship, the Blue Ridge, visited Cam Ranh Bay. And the Republic of Korea and Vietnam today enjoy positive relationships and have forged one of the closest economic ties in East Asia. So in closing, it's my hope that the heroes memorialized at the Hawaii, Korean, and Vietnam War Memorial will have eternal peace in the selflessness and sacrifice of their deeds, and that the memorial may stand as an eternal reminder that when our nation called, the people of Hawaii answered the call, and that nothing can defeat us when we stand together. Mahalo.